In 1995, the famous detective Mori Kogoro receives a strange letter from a man named Aso Keiji. The letter asks him to investigate a case on Moonshadow Island at the next full moon. He describes the case as follows. The shadows will begin to vanish. Kogoro, Ran, and Conan go to Moonshadow Island to verify the mysterious request. When they arrive on the island, what they discover is both shocking and horrifying. Aso Keiji is a world-renowned musician and a local from the island. He died 12 years ago on the night of a full moon. He killed his family and burned their house. He kept playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata over and over until his final moments. They learn that the mayoral election is coming up with 3 candidates, as Dr. Narumi explains. Dr. Narumi is from Tokyo and has opened a clinic on the island. During the memorial service for the former mayor, they discover a so-called curse piano. The same piano that Aso Keiji and the previous mayor played on before their deaths. During the service, Hideo Kawashima, a mayoral candidate, goes to the bathroom and doesn't return. Later, the famous Moonlight Sonata suddenly starts playing from the piano room. At that moment, they find his lifeless body in the piano room. The killer drowned him. Conan figures out that the killer made it look like the last 2 deaths. He concludes that the killer is still in the building. With the election as the motive, the mayoral candidates became the prime suspects. Mr. Drugs runs away screaming as soon as he sees the sheet of music on the piano. The gang realizes that the matter isn't over yet and another murder will happen. They stay together with the corpse in the piano room while they wait for the police to arrive. Dr. Narumi tells them about the former mayor who died of a heart attack with a frightened look on his face. Inspector Megura arrives and begins questioning the people. During the exhaustive questioning, the second movement of the Moonlight Sonata plays from the loudspeakers. They find Tatsuji Kuroiwa, another mayoral candidate, dead with the knife in his back in the broadcasting room. Conan is frustrated because they couldn't stop the murder. A music score written in blood is on the floor. Conan begins to decipher the score from the crime scene. You know you're next. Conan reads the first deciphered score. The second reads, "The grudge of Hellfire is settled." The second code goes back to the pianist who burned himself to death 12 years ago. The old policeman said that 12 years ago everything burned, and only the sheet music remained in his fireproof safe. They go to the storage room of the community center to look for the key to Aso Keiji's safe. Conan questions the policeman about the people involved and learns about their backgrounds. Moonlight Sonata's third movement still remains. His 2 competitors now gone, Masato Shimizu will now be the next mayor. Conan hears a strange noise in the piano room as he tries to get into the storeroom. He chases a person who is there, but the person breaks a window and escapes. Conan falls and finds a man lying unconscious on the floor. It's Murasawa. When the police finally enter the storage room, they find Mr. Drugs, also known as Ken Nishimoto, dead with sheet music on the floor. Conan quickly deciphers the code as a suicide note. Nishimoto takes responsibility for the previous murders. A tape recorder containing the third movement of the Moonlight Sonata is also in the room. Conan explains that it's impossible to do it alone without a step. He was murdered. The murderer forgot to set a step because he was in a hurry. He finds a piano tuner in Murasawa's pocket and a secret compartment under the piano. Conan notices a strange white powder on the floor under the piano. Could it be that? The pieces of the puzzle begin to take shape, with only the finishing touches missing. Conan finds out who committed the crime after looking at some sheet music by Aso Keiji. The reason why he took Kawashima to the piano room after drowning him. The meaning of the sheet music left behind in all 3 crimes, and the secret of the code, written in blood, as well as the hidden message from Kuroiwa. Conan knocks out Kogoro for his revelation. Kazuaki Hirata was the one who knocked Murasawa out in the piano room. He used the room to deal drugs with Kawashima and used the piano's secret compartment as a hiding place. Hirata hits Murasawa when he sees Hirata fiddling with the piano. But he had nothing to do with the murders. In the second murder, the killer used a trick to make it look like the victim had recently died. By the time we got to the transmission room, the blood code had dried up. They also used a reverse key on the broadcast board to manipulate the time of death. The killer erased the clue. Fortunately, forensics had already taken photos of the crime scene. The only person besides the police who could approach the body and falsify the estimated time of death was the person examining it. The only one who could do that is you, Dr. Narumi. In the first murder, you dragged the body to the piano room so that the coroners could examine it on the main island. That makes you the only doctor on the island. You did that so that you'd be asked to examine the body of the second murder and use your trick. The motive for these 3 murders all go back 12 years ago, when Aso Keiji burned himself and his family. In reality, Kawashima, Kuroiwa, Nishimoto, and Kameyama, the former mayor, murdered him and his family. They used Aso's international appearances to buy drugs and used the secret compartment in the piano to sell them. When Aso tried to stop, they killed him instead. The sheet of music from his fireproof safe describes all this in great detail. Shortly before his death, Aso wrote a confession to his son Seiji on the sheet of music. Seiji was in a hospital in Tokyo at the time. Dr. Narumi is a man, and his real name is Aso Seiji. He's the son of Aso Keiji. After the explanation, they find that Seiji has disappeared. Conan suspects that he might be in the piano room. Seiji goes to the piano room, burns it, and plays the piano. Conan finds him and gives him a message from his father. Seiji, even if it's only you, I hope you live a decent life. Seiji then says, if I'd read that earlier, then maybe I wouldn't have needed to do this. Seiji explains to Conan what made him kill the 3. Seiji goes back to his hometown to find out what happened. He learned the truth from the former mayor and wanted revenge. The former mayor died of a heart attack. Seiji played the Moonlight Sonata for his father and decided to take matters into his own hands. Conan tries to convince Seiji to leave the building. After all that he has done, he's now the same as those criminals with blood-stained hands. He refuses and throws Conan out of the building to save him. Seiji then played a scrambled piano piece thanking Conan. This story teaches us that greed and revenge never lead to anything good. Ever. They kill innocent people to cover their tracks. Greed makes people do terrible things, and it can also make them lose sight of what is important in life. Seiji's thirst for revenge ended up bringing him more pain and suffering. Revenge is a never-ending cycle of violence and destruction for everyone involved. Our actions have consequences. Strive to do what is right, even if it's not the easiest or most profitable. Choose kindness and forgiveness over greed and revenge. Can you recall a time when greed or revenge caused problems in your own life or in the lives of those around you? If so, what did you learn from that experience? If you liked this story, you'll love the next one. See you there.